Hey friends, welcome back to the Godspeed Garage. In this episode, I'm going to show you how to properly set up a TV cable for a 700R4. So I got a new transmission off Craigslist for the Black Widow. It's a 700R4 transmission that supposedly ran when parked. I had a turbo 400 transmission in this thing, which ran totally fine, but it didn't have overdrive. And for my little shop truck here, I wanted to be cruisable as a daily driver. So I yanked out the old turbo 400, which came with all the fun stuff of putting a different transmission in your truck. You gotta make brackets, you gotta check your drive shaft length and maybe make a new drive shaft and shorten it or whatever. But the beautiful thing about these transmissions is they're pretty interchangeable. The bell housings on the turbo 400 and the 350 and the 700R4 and even the 204R are all the same. The main difference is how they shift. For the turbo 400, it's an electronic solenoid that when you hit the gas, it flips this switch thing that sends a signal to the transmission that tells it to kick down. But on the 700R4, it's all controlled by the TV cable. It's all throttle position, and it adjusts the solenoid inside of the transmission, which adjusts the pressure and tells it when to shift. So the position of the TV cable is absolutely critical, especially the geometry with how it works for your throttle bracket. The bracket you use is absolutely critical. Don't go Mickey Mousing something that you made up in your garage, because you're never gonna get it exactly perfect. And that's where you run the risk of burning up this transmission. I have the Sniper EFI on my truck, and the bracket that comes with the kit is from Demon Carburation. It's part number 1953. And this bracket will work with the Turbo 350 and the 700R4. So when you're installing this on an aftermarket carburetor, you want to try the best you can to duplicate how it came from the factory. From the factory, this TV cable ran flat across here, just above the manifold and the valve cover. The throttle bracket on the Sniper has two different attachment points. The hole towards the front is for our Turbo 350, and this one towards the back is for the 700R4. From the factory, this pivot point of your throttle bracket, it's 1 inch down and ½ an inch back towards the firewall. And the various manufacturers make aftermarket brackets to correct your geometry with the different carburetors. Now, this transmission I got off Craigslist, it came with the TV cable, which, since that transmission came out of an 86 Blazer and it was behind a 350, you would think it would bolt right up, but of course it doesn't. You can see it's way too loose. When you attach this, you should feel a little bit of pressure on it as you pull it, so you know that it's engaging the throttle valve. Also, when you're adjusting the TV cable, it's better to kind of err on the tighter side than it is on the loose side, because if it's too loose, that's when you're really going to start to burn up this transmission. So in order to get the slack out of the cable, I have to cut it shorter. And I went down to my local hardware store and picked up a little cable stopper deal and a spring. The spring is super important because with aftermarket carburetors, the throw when you hit wide open throttle is often farther than the throw of the throttle valve inside your tranny. So the spring gives a little bit of a buffer when you hit wide open throttle for your sick burnouts and drag racing. The spring has to be a little bit stiff, kind of like a medium, I guess, stiffness, because this cable is under a little bit of tension. And this becomes your bulk adjustment, and the push button on your TV cable is your fine adjustment. It's got little teeth on there that'll click in and out to dial it in so that it shifts between first and second right around 20 miles an hour. If it's shifting prior to like 15 miles an hour or so, then that means your cable's too loose. But if it shifts after 20 miles an hour or higher, then that means it's too tight. So, well, I think it's time to go for a test drive to see where we're at here. So I think I'm getting pretty close. It seems to be under light acceleration. It's shifting right around 20 miles an hour, but if I get on to like medium acceleration, it jumps up to about 23 to 25, which is a little high. So I think I'm about 1 or 2 clicks too tight, so I want to loosen it just a little bit. So when you're doing your fine adjustment, a little tip is to mark it with a pin. That way, if for whatever reason you hit that button and it ratchets out or ratchets in really far, then you can go right back to the spot and not have to start all over again. And as you can see, it's just off my silver mark now from the pin. So I'm about 2 clicks looser. So now I'll drive it and see if it shifts at the right mile per hour. Well, that about does it for me. I think I got it pretty well dialed in right where it needs to be. So thanks for watching, and make sure you give it a thumbs up, subscribe, comment, share with your friends, etc. See you next time.